$159 we took in. The rent was $188. Linen plate rentals, $25, and catering, $140. Total paid to city is $252.95. That is it.
Very good, thank you. Building and zoning update.
Hello, this is for November 2016. New rehabilitation commercial permits, 1. Commercial roofing permits, 3. Building complaints, 2. Code enforcement complaints, 4. Zoning complaints, 1. Consult/meeting for building, 3. Meeting for zoning, 1. Residential demolition permits, 8. Residential electrical permits, 6. Residential rehabilitation permits, 8. Residential roofing permits, 11.
Are those residential demolition permits the ones that we're trying to, are those the ones we've been working on?
Yeah.
The blight.
The blight?
Yeah.
For those 8? Okay. Okay, very good. Thank you.
I just want to say, too, what a great job Ms. Lepper's doing. She has been a go-getter who has been working the hardest as I've seen anybody work, and she's gotten a lot done. So just really appreciate all the hard work you've done, Stephanie. I wanted to tell you that.
Good job, Stephanie.
Fire department.
All right, fire department. We've got 100 series fire. They had total incidents of 6. 200 series explosion, 1. 300 series rescue and EMS, 80. 400 series hazardous condition, no fire, 1. 500 series serious or service calls, 2. Good intent calls, 600 series, 11. 700 series false alarm and false call, 3. Grand total of 104.
Very good. We can go on to the animal shelter.
Euthanized, 1 died while here, 1 picked up dead from a car, had 3 were carryovers, they had 9 community cats and 1 dog with the Purdue program. And that's it.
That's it. Very, very good. How about the Spruce City Courts?
City Court for November 2016 had 31 new citations, 28 were decided, paid, dismissed, and transferred to Superior Court, 69 pending, not paid year to date, 1 deferral, 0 failure to pay, 0 sent to collections. City ordinance violations, parking, animal violations, and fireworks, and 46 new citations, 56 pending citations year to date, 13 decided, paid, and dismissed, or transferred, 0 animal citations, 0 collections, 90 days past due.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
We do not have the attorney here tonight.
No.
He did not give you anything to present.
No, he didn't relay anything to me.
Then we have Mr. Tidd. Is he? Hey, he's back there.
Sir, back here.
Hi, how you doing? Good.
Fine, sir.
Good. Come on up and join the party.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That looked like a big man.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks for the opportunity to come and talk with you tonight and give you an update on a partnership that has transpired and in the process between the City of Peru and Miami County Economic Development Authority is related to engaging a consultant called Retail Strategies. And I apologize to the public. We were going to do this on a PowerPoint on the slide, but me being the untechnical person that I am, didn't really understand what Dave was trying to tell me and what I needed to bring, so I brought the wrong cord. So bear with us, and we'll briefly go through these slides to kind of update you on where we were, or where we are. But just a little bit of background. We entered into the contract with Retail Strategies on May 31st of this past year. You can see here the different things that was part of the scope of work, in that there was a significant amount of research that was done based on demographic data that Retail Strategies had access to. They looked, they came, they saw what retail existed here in the community. They did an analysis as far as what were the gaps, what was the potential market here to try to bring new retail to the community. And then they put all of that together into an implementation plan of how we need to proceed from here jointly, and then doing part of the scope of work and actually helping us attract new retail opportunities to the city. So it's a 3-year contract. It's renewable each year. The total for the 3 years is $110,000. The first year was $50,000. Second year is $30,000, and third year is $30,000. And the interlocal agreement that exists between the city and Makita is that we would share the cost at 50% level for those 3 years. We do have the opportunity to not renew the contract. If we feel that they haven't lived up to the obligations the prior year of the contract, we can terminate the contract. But we are obligated. In other words, if we, let's say the middle of the second year, we decide to terminate, we're still obligated to pay that full year of year 2. So it would be beneficial if we were going to terminate the contract at any time to do it after the end of a particular year. So the implementation plan, as I said, is complete. This is just kind of an overview. If you turn over to the next slide, that looks like an upside or a funnel. This just kind of conveys what their process is. And let me also apologize for maybe some of the quality of the slides, but as you can see, they do a market analysis, then get into the retail or strategic planning. We're actually into the implementation or recruitment, and then the results being leads that are brought to the community for retail development. You know, they can't guarantee, you know, they can bring retail opportunities to us, and then it's incumbent upon us as the community to do whatever type of negotiations as it relates to incentives, if those are implied, or do the planning and the zoning or whatever needs to be done to make them successful here. All they do is bring us basically leads. If you turn over to the next page, and I'm sorry I didn't even number the pages, so I forgive you, or forgive me for that. The customized trade area. If you look at, this is what they have determined to be our retail trade area, with the city of Peru in the center. So this is the trade area that they defined, and all of the demographic data that was used further in this uses that trade area. So the next slide over shows the population that is within that trade area is a little bit over 26,000, almost 27,000 people, divided by average male age of 39, average female age being of 41. As you can see right now, there's a projected 0.9% loss in population between 2016 and 2021. So that's kind of, again, just some of the demographics. The next page shows the estimated household incomes by household size. The total number of households are a little bit over 12,000. As you can see, across the bottom shows the number of people from one in that household, which represents 28% of those households, all the way up to 7 or more in a household, which is 1% of that total. The median household income is a little over $40,000, $40,591 to be exact.
Wonder where they got that figure.
What's that?
$40,000 per household?
Right.
You counting the husband and wife both?
Yeah, that's total household income. That is the median household income by wage earners within the household. Not per capita income, but median household income. Then you also look at the next slide over, shows the average employee salary. And you can look at the different classifications there just between white collar, blue collar, military, unclassified. The average employee wage, a little over $43,600 is there. Next page over shows the estimated population by age and the educational attainment, and this is something that we know we all need to work on, is increasing that educational attainment level. But you can see from doctorate degree down to less than a ninth grade education, the percentage, again, this is just of that trade area. So the population of 26,000 in that trade area, this is not countywide, just in that trade area. So that'll give you a little bit of idea there. Then we go through what they call a psychographic profile. So they compare us to communities across the United States of similar size and those kind of things, and they try to put the demographics into a profile that you can see there is either, and I'm sorry, my eyes are bad as well, traditional living, small town, simplicity, heartland communities, senior escapes, and rooted rural. Thank you, Mayor. No problem. You must have better mind over there. Yeah, right. That's what it is. Yeah. So anyway, the next page shows that how we stack up, and we are the normal. We're in that group of 53% of similar communities that they tag to be traditional living, and some of the profile that exists, you can read down there of what that represents. A lot of the people show up at Walmart, Kmart, general merchandise stores. Some pay by credit, but you can see the different profiles and everything are there. I won't go through those. Same way on the other page shows some more of that profile for traditional living, in that typical housing is single family, median value of the housing is $79,000. Over 40% own their home, the remainder rent their property. And then it shows that traditionally earnings, you can see these bubble charts that are off on the right-hand side on this slide, shows that a lot is geared towards production. Then you have administrative, and you can see the different labels there for some of the different bubbles in that chart. So turning over to the graph, and the top of it says consumer demand and supply, customized retail area, their gap analysis. This is what they say, that there is a gap within our trade area, and these are the types of and the percentages of that gap that could be supported here within that trade area. And they kind of follow around the first one at the top, the one that is like $10 million, 984, that's in motor vehicle and parts dealers. Then the next one, if you go kind of clockwise around, furniture and home furnishings, building materials and garden equipment stores, food and beverage stores, the biggest one, the 32 million. Health and personal care stores, clothing and clothing accessories, sporting goods, book and music stores, general merchandise, of course, is the huge one, at about kind of between the 7 o'clock to the 10 o'clock position, if you're looking at it as a clock, and then food service and drinking places rounding out the chart. So what does that mean? The next slides show the top categories for recruitment. And these are not These particular categories represent what is currently being hot in the market. In other words, of the retail types of operations, these are the ones that are making significant investments and expanding. Not to say that there aren't others that would be interested in our communities, but nationally, these are the types of retail that have shown a history of expanding, and their future looks like they will continue to expand. So the first one is quick service restaurants. So you can see, and again, their analysis is the market will market here locally still has access for some of these. And the decals and everything that are listed on here, like Little Caesars and Culver's and Jimmy John's and BW3s, those are just representatives of the types. That's not just the industries that should be pursued or the companies or the stores. That just represents a type, so you get a feel for what those types of brands or those types of stores are. The next one deals with basically clothing and accessories, and you can see the ones that they have identified here, and again, just examples, but Maurice's, Rue 21, Cato, Burke's Outlet are just examples of the ones that tend to expand and that our size of demographics and community are attractive to these types of retail developments. The next one being home and garden wear. You can see Tractor Supply, Do It Best, Lowe's and Menards maybe in this category as well as being attractive. But again, these are just examples. And then the last one is what they classified as automotive. And in there they had put examples of parts companies like Advanced Auto Parts, CarQuest, and O'Reilly as being prone for expansion and being, again, interested in markets the size of ours, and that there is a gap that exists in our marketplace for those types of development. So lastly, the implementation. What are some of the things that Retail Strategies is going to be doing now that this plan is done? And they're going to be actually representing us at major retail stores, events like those that take place in Las Vegas, Chicago, Atlanta, Dallas, where retailers come together at trade shows. They will have a booth. They will be out walking the floor, representing Peru, and talking with some of the companies that they have identified that meet our demographics and meet our market. And then networking and selling to Peru to their contacts. And I think that is where really, to me, the benefit of this whole project is they have the contacts to know who is, who isn't, have them on their speed dial that they can talk with them directly. If Brooke and I were to try to do that, it would probably take us months maybe to get to one person in one corporation that was ultimately the decision maker. These folks know, they know what our community is, they know the companies that our community fits in the profile, and they're going to be talking directly to those folks. We have suggested things such as things that we would like to see. Sporting Goods Place, Shoe Sensation is another potential opportunity. I'd love to see maybe a microbrewery and restaurant in the downtown. That seems to be successful in a lot of small communities. And then clothing stores as well. Periodic status reports. We have access to their website, and they post on there who they've seen, when they saw them, what the discussion was, all those kind of things that we can periodically check. They'll let us know when there's something new that's been posted on the site. So anyway, again, I just wanted, sorry I took maybe a little bit longer than what I'd anticipated. And again, sorry to the public that we didn't have the PowerPoint. Maybe we could make copies available somehow. I know Dave said if we wanted the PowerPoint, he could put it on the video for folks to take a look at. But I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council may have, or even the public, if you wanted to include them in the discussion or questions.
Yeah, I just leave that up to Kurt. And
Anybody have any questions up here?
I don't necessarily have a question, but this is probably one of the more promising things I've seen come through the city in a long time, that somebody's actually putting the foot forward to try to resolve this. And I think from our standpoint, and I think largely from the community standpoint, that this is a huge step for us. And yeah, it comes at a cost, sure, but in the end game is we can get some retail store here and try to grow the city in that way. I think it's absolutely fantastic. So thank you for doing that. I know it's part of your job, but that's great.
Well, there were others that had this vision as well, and I'll take that back to my board, and thanks to the city for their participation as well. And, I think there's a great momentum now with what's going on with Rediscover downtown and what they're doing with property owners to help with facade improvements and some other things. And even without the facade improvements, there are owners that are taking it upon themselves to do the improvements even without that. So I think we've got a great momentum. We can make the downtown more attractive just for visitors when they do come as a result of this retail strategies initiative. So
I think it's also part that the U.S. economy is doing much better, and the unemployment rate is down to 4.6%, I read the other day. So
Yes.
it's all coming back from the Great Recession, and it just takes time for everybody to build up momentum. So
it's great timing, no doubt.
Would this ultimately help too with some more hotel chains or anything to that effect as well? They weren't listed in there, but was there any discussion about that?
Well, I think those things are naturally going to happen with more improvements on the highways and those kind of things, and more people that use US 24 and US 31.
Yeah.
I think those things are going to come. What we need to do is try to find something that brings people to the community that's an attraction, that they come here, whether to shop or they come here because of events or those kind of things that are going on, that they need hotel space. Yet people that are passing through is one segment of that formula, but the other segment is what do we have for them to do while they're here?
Right, get them to stop.
Is another thing, another opportunity.
I did happen to notice you mentioned that the new So Good Candies has opened 10 days ago, and I was over there Saturday, and they had a guest book, and there have been guests in a week. There are people from Los Angeles, Indianapolis, Atlanta, and then
Right.
various points in between. So in a week, those people have come through our community. So
Right, and same way Voodoo. I can't tell you the amount of people who have said that they come here to go to Voodoo. One, I can't remember who it was, said that they went to Voodoo to eat and then saw that Club 14 was open, went over and checked that out and stayed over there to have drinks and everything after they ate at Voodoo. So yeah, there is momentum building in the downtown. So
Excellent.
thank you.
any questions from the audience? I know you couldn't see the proposal, but any questions of what Mr. Tidd said? Nope? Okay, thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
There is no unfinished business. I guess we'll go on to new business.
Our new business, we have Resolution 13, 2016.
Resolution 13, 2016, a resolution approving the remediation, demolition, and restoration of the former Peru Utilities Power Plant.
Move to consider Resolution 13, 2016.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Crosskoff and seconded by Councilman Guston to consider Resolution 13, 2016. Roll call.
Guston.
Yes.
Holland.
Yes.
Krauskopf.
Yes.
Langwell.
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Torrance.
Yes.
Move we adopt Resolution 13, 2016.
Second that.
It's been moved by Councilman Crosskoff and seconded by Councilwoman Torrance to adopt Resolution 13, 2016.
Mr. Pandy, front and center, please.
Thank you for the opportunity, members of the council. And with me is Joshua Chance, who is the project manager for Prairie Utilities. Josh spent most of his 17 years with Prairie Utilities operating the power plant. He was superintendent there. So he's been doing the heavy lifting on this matter as far as getting the requests for proposals out. We had about 15 different firms come to our pre-bid conference to look at the building and decide if they wanted to submit proposals. We did end up with 6 competitive proposals, and we're recommending to you, with the unanimous support of the Prairie Utilities Board, that the contract be awarded to National Salvage and Service Corporation. They're from Bloomington, Indiana. They're very experienced in this type of work. In fact, Josh and our manager of environmental and safety matters and our most senior power plant employee traveled to a job site in southern Indiana where they're currently working on a power plant, and they heard nothing but good comments from the utility that was working with National Salvage. And I would mention that we bid it 3 ways. We bid it to take the building down to approximately 3 feet below the street level grade. Option 2 was to go down 10 feet below, and option 3 was to go all the way down to brown soil, basically to get rid of anything, basement slabs, footings, substructures, everything will go away, so that if there is ever a cause for development there, whoever's coming to develop that site would know that they're not going to run into something in the underground system. And at your places, I put a site plan that's color-coded in green and yellow. And the site is approximately 2.5 acres. We have a picture of it here displayed. If I can talk from the picture, everything beyond these white buildings are clarifiers for the water plant, which is here. The office is here. So everything from these white structures, excuse me, west to Wayne Street, the 2 water structures along the river go away, the coal handling building and the conveyors, the chimneys, smokestacks go away. Everything there west of this line is to be removed. A big part of that is the asbestos abatement. The board had hired a company out of Indianapolis called Environmental Resource Management. They estimated that the asbestos abatement alone would be a cost factor of about $2.4 million. And we end up with a total bid that's in that ballpark, largely because there's so much metal in the building, steel, copper, and other metals that will have salvage value. So our price for this is net of salvage. The contractor includes taking out the power plant, the coal storage building, fuel oil storage, both the river pump houses. They include charges for the demolition, asbestos abatement, loading, transport, disposal, confirmatory air sampling for asbestos-related work, backfilling and compaction, and surface restoration activities. So when they're done, and they've got 18 months to do this, that should be a greenfield site. Well, they have to plant grass and get it to grow on the site. So that's the executive summary of the project. I'll be happy to try to answer any questions.
How far did you decide to take it down? 3, 6?
We took the third option, which is to go down
All the way.
to take out everything. So the RFP that Joshua wrote is very inclusive. It says they've got to make everything go away, and they've got to go to whatever depth that takes them to demolish and remove materials.
The only thing they can put back into the site is clean fill. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that some of the concrete that they crush up, they can't use as backfill. But anything that has oil, asbestos, all that's got to be taken out of there and disposed of in an environmentally safe manner. So we have a water utility directly next door. We don't want any water runoff, and that's been tested. We've had test wells and everything else in the water. We have no contaminated water runoff right now. We want to keep it that way. So that's why we'd like to go down below the basement.
With it being as close to the river, is there any problem with IDEM?
They're required by contract to comply with all the IDEM regulations, get all the permits that are necessary, both at the state and the federal level. So IDEM, EPA, everybody has to be satisfied, as well as the local residents, because along Canal Street, we have homes. We have a residential neighborhood. So, and the access to the building for removing a lot of the equipment is on that north face of the building, facing onto Canal Street. So they will be cautioned to avoid issues that would interrupt the residents in that area or would disrupt the traffic flow in that area. There may be some days where we have to actually close the street to protect the public and reroute around that area, but Josh will have a full-time, our safety environmental manager will be on the job essentially full-time to make sure he monitors what's going on, and start of every day they'll talk about the safety issues and the public concerns.
So you're going to get EPA and IDEM on the same page, so we'll get this done by 2025, 2026?
Their initial, speaking to them, their initial timeframe was asbestos abatement starting soon, starting in December. That takes 2 to 3 months because there's so much of it. And then construct or destruction, or whatever we want to call it, demolition starting in March and be done by this time next year. Again, that's weather permitting, and so we figure early 2018, I think is probably good.
More power to you.
I
Good
really,
government involved.
I really appreciate you are concerned about the residents. You know, quality of life is everything. If you live someplace you don't have that quality of life, you don't have nothing. And I really appreciate that part, that you're seeing to that.
Thank you, we will.
Yeah.
Are they going to announce when they're starting? I want to be there.
Well, presuming you approve this, they could be starting in a week or so. They've got to sign the documents on their end, and we'll have a pre-construction meeting. And certainly if you want to see the building, Mr. Holland has expressed some interest. We took some city department heads through there last week, and Dr. Crawshaw went with us. And so if you'd like to see it, just give me a time, and it takes maybe an hour to see the thing for the most part, and we'll be happy to schedule you.
Well, I've been through it. I just want to be there when they take those top parts off, because that is, I don't see how they're going to do that.
Well, that'll come later in the process, Mr. Gusson, because the early work, as Josh said, will be asbestos abatement, which is the sides of the boilers, the insulation on the piping, and when they're doing that, no one will be able to be there without a respirator on because of the air contaminants. So when we get to that stage of the big stuff coming down, I'll be happy to notify you.
I have a question. As far as asbestos, when you're taking it down, just the air in general in that whole area, will that affect the residents?
What they'll do is encapsulate, put visqueen up or around whatever they're actually working on at the time. And obviously they'll be in there full get up.
Right.
And they'll monitor the air. They're required by law to monitor the air outside of that visqueen, and that's supposed to be sealed. So by permit, whatever they're working on has to be sealed while they're working on it. So it should not affect anything outside of the plant. And then they're required by law to monitor that.
Good.
And the building envelope will remain intact for the most part. The windows, the doors, the roof, the structure will be intact to contain that activity.
Oh, good. That's good.
That's been a city monument
I know.
my whole life.
Ever.
That's why I said I want to be there when it goes down.
Yeah.
The
So
two
they probably,
units,
outside, they probably won't start on that until next year.
yeah, that's a fair weather type of
Yeah.
activity. And the first unit there, the 12.5 million watt unit, was built, I believe, in 1947. And the larger unit, the 22 million watt, 22 megawatt machine, went in 1958. So Peru has gotten more than 50 years life service out of those units, which they're typically depreciated and expected to live about 30 years. We've gotten more like 60 years out of them.
That's the way the schools were.
Josh, do you,
So-
Find that very interesting.
Josh, you know where there was kind of like, almost like museum type displays in an area where they had pictures and some memorabilia. Do you know where they end up moving those to?
The Miami County Museum should be getting those.
Gotcha. Do you know if they said they would put those on display?
I don't know, I didn't talk to them. They said they
Gotcha.
wanted them, and we had, I'll let you know who kind of got them from.
Okay.
The Miami County Museum is coming tomorrow to take photographs
Gotcha.
at 1 o'clock, so we'll check with their representatives.
Okay. Tom, you might ask the museum about when they display that, because there was a huge collection of where employees had brought pictures of like them working on it through the years, and all kinds of memorabilia was in cases, so maybe.
Whatever we have left, we actually have boxed up, and we haven't disposed of any of those old pictures too, both Polaroids.
Termites haven't gotten to them, huh?
No, sir, we've kept those put away for a long time, and we're not going to get rid of those. We're going to keep those in the office.
Yeah.
So there is no future use as far as the utilities for that land?
No, we've been buying 100% of our power from the Indiana
No,
Municipal
the
Power
land,
Agency.
the land.
The
Oh,
land.
the land?
Yeah.
We don't have a planned use, no. But conceivably, there might be some addition required to the water treatment plant but we're not aware of anything right at this time. But with all the water regulations that are surely going to come, we may have to put on something else to treat the water.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions from the audience?
I do.
Yes. Go ahead, John, is that John? Yep.
Yeah.
How are you going to erect the big cross at Christmas time that you're going to put on the building?
We're going to put you up on a pedestal.
But I was going to say, I missed the Christmas decoration.
Yeah, that, I mean,
Canes.
I believe what he's referring to was a simulated Christmas tree, not a cross.
well, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
And that, we no longer have power up there. We have lit the candles in the windows and other
Right.
things on the structure, but the tree on top has gone the route of other old Christmas trees.
And unfortunately, if they start asbestos abatement before Christmas, the lights, the candles will have to go out too, because we won't be allowed back in there to turn them off.
Oh, right.
You had a question from the paper?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could elaborate on what possible other contaminations could be and what they could affect or do.
As far as ground contamination,
Yeah,
The structures were painted in an era where lead paint was the standard of paint for industrial use, so there's lead paint there. The lubricants, oil, diesel fuel, the coal was delivered by truck, and so there, in the coal yard, you'd have possible diesel fuel contamination, you'd have runoff from the coal storage. There's been a complete study of all that, and the study's been given to the contractor, so they know all the possible things they have to deal with.
Anything else from the audience? Any other questions up here?
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
gentlemen.
you.
Thank you very much. I think we're ready for a roll call.
Gaston?
Yes.
Holland?
Yes.
Kraska?
Yes?
Langwell?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Torrance?
Yes.
The motion passes. Next, we have ordinance 36, 2016.
Ordinance 36, 2016, an ordinance for additional appropriations to various funds.
Move we consider ordinance 36, 2016.
Second.
It's been motioned by Councilman Crosskopf and second by Councilwoman Langwell to consider ordinance 36, 2016. Roll call.
Gaston?
Yes.
Holland?
Yes.
Krauskopf?
Yes?
Langwell?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Torrance?
Yes.
So we'll have to wait for this for next month. Question, is this not going to, if it's not spent at the end of the year, is it not going to roll back to the general fund?
Yes, I think I can let Mike answer that, but we have discussed that. He's basically getting a head start on next year.
But I guess what I'm saying is we're moving it from the general to the continuing education and criminal investigations if you haven't spent it by the end of December, isn't it going to go back to the general fund?
No, it won't, as long as we have an encumbrance. We
Okay.
can encumber this money to follow over to 2017
Okay.
because he has very specific things that he wants to spend it on. And as long as we have a purchase order, we can encumber that money.
Of course Mike wants to spend money.
I want to spend 2.4 million though.
2.2, thank you for your savings, I appreciate it. Okay.
All right, I believe that is all we have on our agenda tonight.
Is there anything additional from anybody here on the council? Any questions from the audience? Move we adjourn.
All in favor?
Second.
Oh, sorry. It's been moved by Councilman Glasscoff and seconded by Councilwoman Lee to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, folks.
Amen.